Hello and welcome to a friendly chat. Today I want to talk about the films and television based on the workings of science fiction author Philip K. Dick, pretty much one of the most prolific writers in that genre. Um, Died at a very young age, unfortunately, but he left a massive mark in literature and science fiction. Now, I'm not going to compare the movies and stuff to the books. If you actually are interested in that, though, there is some really good channels out there. There's Lost in Adaptation with the Dom. He does really good in-depth looks into comparing the book to the movie or TV series, and tells you what's different, what was left out, and stuff like that. There's a really good series of videos. So if you're interested in comparison stuff, I do recommend a channel like that. But this time, and I'm not going to be doing clickbaity stuff going, well, you know about Blade Runner and Total Recall, but here's a series of movies you don't know about, because I hate those things, because I get suckered in all the time going, let's see if I do know about them. And I did. Nah. So I'm going to talk about a bunch of movies that don't get as much love as Blade Runner or Total Recall, and I think they are pretty good for the most part. There's some that didn't do particularly well in the box office, but that doesn't mean they're a terrible film. So yeah, we're gonna cover a whole bunch of those. Not in huge details. I'm not gonna do spoilers because I would like you to discover. If you haven't seen these movies, I would like you to discover them for themselves, because some of them do have some really interesting elements to them. And because Philip K. Dick, he had issues with drug abuse and mental issues. Pretty much everything he writes is about identity and what makes you you, and it's really great for that. And I will mention that in each of the ones. I think probably the only one that doesn't really deal with identity is Next, which is a Nicolas Cage one, but I'll talk about that one later down the track. So let's begin as we look into the workings of, or the adaptations at least, of the workings of Philip K. Dick.
And now the news. Don't touch that dial.
So this list isn't in any specific order other than the release date of the films. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Blade Runner. I have covered it in a lot more detail in other videos, mainly my top 50 favorite movies, and just talking about stuff based on novels. But it is a movie that I'm fairly certain pretty much everyone's seen, or most people have seen. So as I said, I'm not going to go into detail into the plot or anything like that. However, it is one of those movies that it ends up on a lot of people's best list of science fiction, and there's a reason for it. It is brilliant. It really is. However, when it comes to adaptations and stuff like that, you can't. It is very different from the book, and you can't even say it's an in name only, because the book is called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" Blade Runner is actually a title of another science fiction sort of dystopian novel that they had the rights to at the time, and they just went, "Hey, that sounds a cool name for the police unit." So boom, and they never looked back. But yes, it is very loosely based on some of the stuff that happens in the book of Do Androids Dream. Rick Deckard is a very different character, and but aside from that, it still hits the marks of a lot of Philip K. Dick stories, which is, what is it that makes you you? Is it the sum of your memories? If so, if those memories are transferred into another person, a replicant, so with the character of Rachel, is she now a new person, or is she the memories of the old person? And it's like, so it does ask some really interesting questions and stuff like that. So brilliant movie, really beautifully shot. Ridley Scott just smashed it, absolutely smashed it. It's always dark and rainy because it's that neo-noir sort of style. It's got fantastic soundtrack by Vangelis, absolutely brilliant, one of my favorite ones. And everyone's great in it. Harrison Ford's great. Sean Young's great. Just Daryl Hannah's great. The Emmett Walsh, who plays Decker's boss is fine. He's only in for a little bit, but he's got a certain vibe about him. Edward James Olmos as Gaff is just magnificent, and Rockter Howard just out of the park. It's gone. Absolutely brilliant performance, and one of his best. And I mean, he's a fantastic actor as well. So it's like, but it's a fantastic movie. They did a sequel in I think 2017, Blade Runner 2049, sort of heading back to that world, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who's currently doing Dune and just smashing that as well. Solid. I think it's a solid sequel. I've watched some videos where there's some real massive fans of Blade Runner, and they're not happy with the sequel. That's fine. It's personal preference, personal choice. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautifully shot. The colors in it are amazing. The characters continue to just, you care about them actually, which is kind of cool. And in between Blade Runner 1 and Blade Runner 2049, there was a bunch of stuff. They did some shorts that are set before 2049, which are I believe on the Blu-ray in that. No, they definitely are. But you before the movies came out, you could watch them on YouTube, which was really neat. I like when they do stuff like that, just to expand and make the universe a little bit bigger and better. There was an anime series called Black Lotus, which I think went for, I don't know how many episodes it went for, but that came out last year, I believe. And of course there's comic books set in the Blade Runner universe, and there's a comic book of Black Lotus as well. Now there was also some novels that were set in between Blade Runner. Well, it was set after Blade Runner. There was 2049 was not even a concept in anyone's eyes at the time, but they did 3 novels, all written by K.W. Jeter or Jeter. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've known him from other stuff, like he wrote some Star Trek and things like that. But so you got Blade Runner 2, Edge of Human, Blade Runner 3, A Replicant Night, and Blade Runner 4, Iron Talon. Now, these are sequels to the movie. They're not sequels to Android's Dream, they're sequels to the movie. Now, the interesting thing too is they're not just sequels to Blade Runner, they're specifically the director's cut, because of what is revealed in the director's cut. Because they don't have the voiceover, they don't explain that Rachel has unlimited life, so she's got 4 years, and too bad she won't live, because then again, who does? So it sort of takes place after that, and Deckard's sort of in hiding and dealing with sort of the fact that Rachel has to keep her in like a suspended animation because she's going to die. And then enter Tyrell's replacement, who is actually his niece, I can't remember, but is actually what Rachel was based on. So you have the woman whose Rachel's memories were taken from, and Deckard trying to deal with everything that's going on there. I'm just trying to verify if it's his niece. I can't remember who it was in the movie, because it's been a while. But yeah, it was pretty neat. Not they're solid books, but yeah. So that was some of the stuff that they did to flesh it out. I know I'm talking mainly about the TV stuff and that, but I'm just sort of explaining. Sticking with just multimedia though, Westwood Games back in, I think it was 2007 or something, brought this out, and I freaking love this game. Haven't played it in a very long time because it's old tech. I think recently either GOG or maybe Steam have updated it so you can actually play it on modern computers. I really need to get back into it. I think it's got at least 7 endings, but I think there's more than 7 endings, which is fantastic because everything you do has a price. And I remember the first time I played it, it ended up that I was a replicant, and that was kind of neat. But yeah, there's as I said, multiple endings. It's 4 discs. This was the first game that when I bought it, you could fully install onto a computer. Not the first game you could do that with, but that was over a gigabyte. Which I know these days you go, I got a thumb drive that's like 64 gigabytes. Nah. So, sure, but back when a gigabyte hard drive was not cheap, yeah, it was kind of neat. So yeah, that was some more sort of media set in the Blade Runner universe. Um, I have the on my DVD version I bought, which is set in a little Voight-Kampff box. Has, I think it's the 5 different versions of the movie. The funny thing is, like, I bought this because I was like curious about it back in the day. Because I still kind of love the original cut, but I found that since this came out, the only cut I ever watch is the final cut. Because when I finally sort of accepted the fact that the voiceover is not really necessary, yeah, the final cut was like, well, this is it. This is how it goes. But yeah, I still like the case and all that. So it's kind of kitschy sort of stuff. And of course, I've got a blaster as well, which is 3D printed. But it's this is like one of those movie prop firearms that I was like, I really like this firearm because it's just weird and looks like nothing that was ever made before. The fact it's got 2 triggers, because it actually has like a rifle bolt that you can fire an actual rifle round through, as well as the 5 rounds that the pistol has. So yeah, got nothing to do with the movies or anything like that, but I just thought, yeah, fun stuff. But yeah, so Blade Runner, kicking off the list, is, yeah, one of my favorite movies. It's in my top 10. But yeah, it's, as I said, it's not in name only because the book is, a completely different title to Android's Dream, but it's still a brilliant story. And as I said, I'm fairly certain pretty much everyone who's watching this has seen Blade Runner. If you haven't, do check it out. I do recommend it. And we'll kick on to the next movie. Total Recall, 1990. Arnold Schwarzenegger, absolute just fun movie. Paul Verhoeven, director of RoboCop, so it's ridiculously violent. Once again, another one you can't say in name only, because the book is called, it was like, I think like 29 pages. We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, which is a pretty neat name. Not for a novel or a book, but it was, I believe, originally published in a magazine, like a science fiction magazine. So that's a good title for a magazine story. But yeah, once again, if you want a comparison to it, I know Boston Adaptation have done this one, and it is really interesting because, like, neither this nor the sequel movie, which I would tell you to avoid like the plague, are close to the book at all. But once again, what makes you you? Is Quaid actually Quaid, or is he Hauser in the movie? Is it like because he has a new memory? Does that make Quaid an actual person, or is he just a fake identity that was created to hide Hauser? It's a you can have really good arguments over this one. Now, one of the arguments that a lot of people do with Total Recall is he still in the chair at Recall getting having a lobotomy, or is this all happening? Now, I have one argument for this is all happening. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, it makes sense that he's being lobotomized because there's like bits of dialogue that are dropped, like, oh, blue sky on Mars, and oh, there's aliens, and Melina actually, you see her on the screen, and it's like, pretty much it is her. However, if you're gonna, and they say it's very ambiguous, and it's sort of ambiguous. I won't say it's very ambiguous. If you're gonna do that and have all that stuff happening, then the plot cannot continue without Quaid. He needs to be the focal point of everything that happens in the story, So there's no possible other conclusion. But the fact is, you get to see a lot more information of what's going on around Quaid. You see meetings with Cohagen and Richter. You see conversations with all the people at Recall when they say, "Oh, he's already got a brain cap and in his mind, and we accidentally broke it when we were putting the new memory in." All of that stuff, he is not conscious for. So I know that they can argue, going, "Oh, it's just part of the memory thing," and it's like, sure, maybe, but I think it would be a lot better if just to have this argument going back and forth, if there was absolutely no point in the movie where Quaid is not witnessing the story continuing. Like if they had, Quaid, going crazy, and then they knock him out, and then it goes straight to the Johnny Cab, and you don't have that information that he's already technically a secret agent. That would make things a little bit, well, it'd make you a little more confused, going, wait, what happened? But as I said, that's my one sort of out of the whole. It's probable that it is actually happening because, as I said, there's information that the audience gets that Quaid is not privy to, and I think if you want to make the conclusion that Quaid is actually still stuck in the chair and he's slowly being lobotomized because of a mistake, don't have information that he is not privy to. Now, the story without that information, it can go forward, but it really shouldn't. I mean, it is important information, but regardless of that, what are you going to do? But Total Recall, that's my thesis on Total Recall. But Total Recall's fantastic. It's a great Arnie movie. I mean, it's one of those films that if you just want to watch, I don't like using the term dumb action because it's not dumb, but it is chock full of action. If you just want to watch an action movie where it's like, lots of squibs going off, lots of blanks being shot, just huge action, people getting punched, eyes popping out of their heads, stuff like that. Really cool makeup too, like all the mutants on Mars, really good makeup, and I'm not just talking about the lady with the 3 breasts. But Benny, who's there, like he's got this cool arm that sort of folds out and looks really cool. It's really, really good, good special effects. But it's a great story regardless of, as I said, I've seen people have massive arguments over, it's all happening in his head. No, it's actually happening. It's like, okay, fine, settle down, have a drink. But yeah, regardless of the possibilities of, the actual story, it's a great fun adventure. The sequel, I think, is this is and I know I mentioned it before when we're talking about movies based on novels. It is one of those things where what annoyed me is you've got Colin Farrell, you've got Bryan Cranston, you've got Jessica Biel, and oh god, I can't remember the other actress, Kate Beckinsale, John Cho's in there, and Bill Nye. So this is a great cast. The trouble is that, and there's some interesting setups, like Australia is like one of the only places left in the world where people can live. And to get to the other side of the planet, you actually go through like this weird sort of subway system that goes through I don't know how it goes to the core of the planet, honestly. Did they ever do science in school? But regardless, it's a neat sort of bit. But the story is set up in a way that I don't care about any of the characters at all. It's just I just don't care. And that was really sad because, as I said, great cast, really good cast. But you've crafted a story and made it in a way that I don't care about anybody. So yeah, I'd say stick with the original. But if you want to watch it as a comparison, I'm not going to say don't do it. But I don't think it's necessary, personally. But that's just me. I'm trying not to be too mean or negative on some of these things, but sometimes sometimes I can't bite my tongue, and I really don't like the sequel. I'll be fully upfront about that. Not the sequel, the remake. I really don't like it. It's unnecessary. It's really unnecessary. The thing is that I don't have a problem when they go, we're gonna go back to the book and we're gonna do the book. Like they did that with True Grit when the Coen brothers did True Grit, and they just basically went, we're going back to the source material and we're gonna base it on the novel, and it is not the same as the original True Grit with John Wayne. But there's elements that are, of course, there's elements the same, Rooster Cogman and stuff like that. But there's stuff that happens in the new one that they didn't do in the original one. So it's like it is, and the feeling of the newer one is completely different to the John Wayne one. So things like that are fantastic. Things like say The Thing, where John Carpenter went, I'm taking the plot to an extent, and I'm just going to run my own way with it. And it's like, yes, that's fine, and that was great. And they were talking about going back and redoing The Thing, but not remaking John Carpenter's Thing, going back to the book, who goes there and doing it from the book. And it's like, cool, okay, I'm okay with that. So yeah, I don't have a problem with them when they go, we're going back to the source material and we're going to try and make something different. Fine. But this is the sad thing, is it's there's nothing about the new one where you just go, well, they're retreading the old stuff. It's like they're not even doing that, but I just found it boring. So yeah, so Total Recall 2012, I guess you'd call it. You know, not my cup of tea. But you know, if you liked it, that's cool. Don't let me try and go, no, you're not allowed to like it. That's not what I'm all about. So, you know, you are allowed to like it. I just didn't like it, and I tried rewatching it. I understand sometimes it's a frame of mind thing, and I was like, maybe I was just in a bad mood when I saw it. I was just bored, or I was tired, or something. I rewatched it. It didn't help. So sorry about that. But yes, but the original Total Recall. Yes, I love it. I love it. Not just because it was an Arnie movie and I was like, what was I, 15, 16 when I saw Total Recall back in 1990. So I was like, you know, smack bang in the demographic of a young lad that likes, yeah, I think I was 15. It's grade 10, yeah. Young lad that likes action movies and loves Arnie movies. And I was like, yeah, this is great stuff. And, you know, sandwiched in between Kindergarten Cop and then Terminator 2 the next year. But great stuff. So yes, but yeah, once again, sorry, really just rambling. But once again, as I said, Philip K. Dick's you know, stories of identity and things like that are really rock solid in this, where it's, yeah, as I said, who is the identity? Is it Quaid? Is it Hauser? What makes you you? If someone implants memories like in Blade Runner with Rachel, does that make her a person, or is she just an approximation? Like it's some interesting stuff, which is really neat. So we jump into TV for a second here. Back in, oh god, it's in the late 90s. I'll try and find the exact date if I can. But they decided to do a TV series based on Total Recall, and it was called Total Recall 2070. And the thing about it is, like, I actually really dig it. I'm was a big fan of it. It only went for one season. It did end on an annoying cliffhanger, as a lot of shows do. Um, but but it was, and this is the really bit of a bummer, but it feels more like Blade Runner than it does Total Recall, because it has androids in it. It has like Recall is in there, but there's another evil company called Uber Braun, which is a great name for a bad company. But yeah, it's mainly about the local police, and sort of androids being sort of utilized in a you know, illegal way and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, they normally use a sort of a stun weapon thing, but one of the cops ends up getting his hands on a 10 millimeter pistol, which is kind of neat. I know it was 12 millimeter. That's right. It was a big bore gun. Um, and yeah, so he starts using that, which just blows big holes in androids. Um, so yeah, the and his bosses are sort of like, well, that weapon's illegal, but tell you what, it can be a sidearm, damn it, because because dealing with recall and Uber Brawn is just tiring. So they just go, no, screw it, take that weapon, do good with it. Um, now it was done by I think Showtime maybe, but I remember watching it as it came out. I think it was on. I think when I had cable TV, and I liked it. It's bold. Let's put it that way. Like you look at it and you go, yeah, they spent some money on this. Um, it's it was surprising. It really was. It's I was just quickly looking at the cast there. It's got a cast of people that I that look familiar, but I don't really recognize. There's one actor in it, that I do recognize. Well, I did remember. It's Matthew Bennett, who's one of the bosses of the law enforcement sort of division, and he was one of the one of the Cylons actually, I believe, in Battlestar Galactica in the new series. So yeah, that was someone I went, oh, I remember that guy. He was in Total Recall 2070. Main dude Michael Easton. He's got that hero sort of look that you have. Um, so yeah, the police department was called. It was Citizens Protection Bureau, CPB. So they weren't just called cops, but he was a detective. So yeah, it's pretty neat. He gets a partner. There's interesting stuff with his partner. I do recommend checking it out. I don't want to spoil stuff because I'd like people to discover some of this stuff on their own. But I really dug it. As I said, warning, it has an annoying finale. But the story build up is really good going through it. There's some really interesting stuff. Once again, it's all about dealing with recall and even Uber Brawn. They're building nasty stuff and dealing with people's memories and things like that. So it sticks within the realm of the Philip K. Dick sort of standard stuff. Funnily enough, it took me a little bit to find it because it wasn't linked to the uh, TV series section of the Philip K. Dick stuff. I was like, wait, you don't count this? But regardless, it doesn't matter. But 20 Total Recall 2070, I think it's only 22 episodes. But yeah, it's a decent watch. It's a good science fiction series. So if you just want one, as I said, one of those things where it's like you want to see sci-fi cops. And as I said, it's more Blade Runner than Total Recall, just because of replicants and things like that, or at least androids. It's kind of like the way I look at it is the TV series Almost Human, which has got nothing to do with this, but I do like this show. Felt very much like iRobot. Like it just had beats in it that felt like, and I mean not the book, the Will Smith movie. It just had beats to it that was like, this is very much like iRobot, the way that the lead character treats the android or the robotic cops and stuff like that, like with disdain and things like that. Oh, okay, cool. So it's kind of like that. Like yeah, they call it Total Recall, but there's so many elements that you go, this feels like Blade Runner. But it's, as I said, it's very entertaining, and I liked it. All right, this movie I freaking love. Now, it's not a very popular one in the pantheon of probably Philip K. Dick stuff, but Screamers with Peter Weller. I remember seeing this at the cinema, and I've seen I've seen all these movies at cinema, but I was blown away by it. Now it's a small film, like it, but thanks to some really clever filming, some beautiful matte paintings, and that it looks really grand. But it's got a very small cast. Now the premise of this is it's set on a moon or a planet where there was mining done. They were mining a specific ore. It was toxic. It sort of went out in the atmosphere. It caused a lot of problems, and there were two different factions, and basically they went to war with each other, and it's been that way since. So one of the factions um, created a new weapon. They said we reinvented the sword. So they created this thing called screamers, which are these little mechanical critters. They burrow in the ground, and they go after anything with a heartbeat. Now they to protect themselves, they wear this wrist thing, which keeps their heart out of basically out of step with everything around them. So the screamers don't attack them. But the other guys, I think they were called Nebs, the other group, they yeah, they have lots of problems with the screamers. They just get killed all the time. And what they said was when they were created them, they flipped the switch in the in the in when where they were being built, and they ran. So they basically build themselves now, and they've they get so basically the plot starts where a group from the opposition shows up, and he's trying to get them to go, look, we want a truce. We need a truce. This has gone out of hand. Everything's gone too crazy. Um, and unfortunately, he gets very killed on the way. But Peter Weller, who's in charge of the main guys, they go, well, let's take this seriously. They call their home base on Earth, and they're like going, oh well, we don't know how to take this. But what they find out later is that the guy they're talking to, he went to prison like 3 years earlier, and it's like they're on their own. No one's going to help them. So they decide, let's go talk to them, and let's get this truce happening, because this is messed up. So yeah, NEBS, the new economic bloc. That's the bad guys, for lack of a better term, and the other group is just called the Alliance. So it's like very very dull. But that's Peter Weller's mob. So before they head off, a ship crashes. Basically, everyone except one guy who's like a soldier gets killed. They so Peter Weller basically says, "I'm tasking you to come with me." So they basically head out to the NEB base to find out if this is a legitimate request. On the way, they find a small boy. Now, this planet used to have a population, like it had, buildings and stuff like that, and there was civilians. So they're not suspicious of it, that there's potentially someone still alive. But as they get close to the NEB base, the kid gets shot by a sniper. And when they look, they find out the kid's a robot, and he's a new model screamer, and they've been upgrading themselves, and they find out that there's new models. There's the kid, and because it's a kid, people just like let their guard down, and they let him in the base, and then everybody gets killed. There's a injured soldier, which is one who just starts screaming that he's hurt, and when you go to help him, they get you. And then there's a third model, and they don't know what the third model is. It's really fun. It's once again, it's one of those things where it's identity. It's like, who is real, who is not real. It's really good. It's based on a story called Second Variety. Now, I have actually read this one. It's very close. It is, other than the fact it's set on Earth, the plot is very close. So it's quite good. Plus Peter Weller, who doesn't love Peter Weller? So yeah, Screamers is one I definitely recommend. As I said, it's a small movie, but it looks way bigger thanks to, like, as I said, some clever shooting and some beautiful matte paintings. It looks like a grandiose scale. So definitely check Screamers out. Very small, as I said, very small cast. But yeah, it's got a pretty decent payoff. Now, they did do a sequel. I have watched it once. I cannot remember much about it. That's not saying it's bad. I just don't remember much about it. I watched it once. It's called Screamers: The Hunting. It has, I think it was made by like Sci-Fi Network in America, or I think it's definitely a Canadian sort of production. It's got Lance Henriksen in it, so no, that's not nothing. It's got Stephen Amell, so it's got Green Arrow, way before he was Green Arrow. And Gina Holden, she was in a heap of stuff. She's, you someone you'd recognize if you saw her. Um, I didn't hate it. I do remember that I didn't hate it. Let's put it that way. But the fact that I don't remember anything about the story is kind of uh-oh. But Screamers itself, I do recommend, and I'm sure someone will go out and go, oh, there's some of this effects. Yeah, there are some dodgy effects. I will warn you about that. But look past the dodgy effects and just look at the story, and I think you'd pretty much dig it. It's a decent tale. As I said, based on Second Variety, and I do recommend the story too. The good thing about Philip K. Dick books is when you buy one, because he does a lot of short stories, you get like about 10 or so stories in a book. So I remember when I bought like Minority Report, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. It had Minority Report, and it had, I think it may have had We Remember It For You Wholesale, and it had Second Variety, and had a bunch of them. So it was like, this is great. I get a whole bunch of them all in one. So yeah, I do recommend reading his books too. They're very, very interesting. But yes, Screamers. So 2002, we had two movies. One just went straight to video because I don't remember knowing about it in the cinema, which was called Imposter. And this one was really interesting. I really dug this one. Had Gary Sinise, Madeline Stowe, Vincent D'Onofrio. And the premise of this one is that all humanity now live under like protective domes, and it's not necessarily for the fact that the atmosphere is bad. It's we're at war with an alien race, and they constantly are bombarding Earth, and the domes protect the cities. Um, Now, the main premise of this is that one of the other things they do is they send replicants, not now, and when these are like real like replicants, like they replace people, and they use that as infiltration. And the whole point is like Gary Sinise is outside one of the domes with his wife when one of these bombs goes off. He's injured. They're doing a scan of him, but the scan doesn't complete, and they believe that maybe he's one of these replicants. So he sort of goes on the run because Vincent D'Onofrio is one of the cops, and he's trying to prove that he is himself. And that's the whole thing of him just going, I just want my life back. I want to prove that I am me, and I can go back to my wife, and I can have my life back, and that's all I need. Um, Really interesting. It really ratchets it up once again. What makes you you? Are you you if you think you're you? All that great stuff. Lots of questions. It's another one that I want you to discover it for yourself because it's a really good story, and it's great payoff, and really good acting because Gary Sinise is great, Vincent D'Onofrio is great, Madeline Stowe is great. So yeah, and it's got a lot of that weird stuff that you got in you know I'm gonna say post-apocalyptic. It's not post-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, and it's not um, like the society seems to be okay, other than the fact it is a bit of a police state. But they're at war, so it's kind of like you understand why there's sort of a curfews and things like that. But but there are that sort of there's lots of um, sections of the city that are all burnt out, and people are sort of standing around burning oil drums and stuff like that to get warm. And you've got that sort of Skid Row sort of look that he has to deal with to stay under the radar and things like that. It's quite a good, Gary Sinise does a really good job, and I do recommend Imposter. It's a very, very cool film. Um, just trying to remember who directed this. So yes, I'm just quickly looking up Gary. Was it Feder? Flood. Gary Fleder. Now he's done a lot of television more so than film, but just looking at what he did. I did like Runaway Jury and Kiss the Girls. Kiss the Girls is a very good film, actually. Don't say a word. So he's done a lot of like good thrillers. Um, but he did one of the TV shows he did. He's worked with D'Onofrio a couple of times. There's an episode of Homicide: Life on the Street, which is one of my favorite cop shows, where a guy gets pushed in front of a subway, and basically he gets jammed between the wall of the subway station and the train, and his body is twisted around. So he is he's still alive. But the thing is that he is dead. Like there is no way that they can save this guy. Like, and Vincent D'Onofrio plays the victim, and basically the homicide detectives are trying to work out who pushed him, and try to get as much information out of this guy before he succumbs to his life, his wounds. And it's a brilliant episode. So he actually directed that episode. So I was like, wow. But yeah, really, really solid sort of film. It is another one that's kind of a small film, but it is worth checking out. And it is actually based on a story called Imposter. So it was like not one where they changed the title of the story, which is kind of good, because it's like sometimes I'm like, yeah, this they got the title right this time, instead of like going, it's a really mouthful of a title. So yeah, Imposter is really, really decent. So that was 2002. Sticking in 2002, now this one got a big theatrical release. It is Minority Report with Tom Cruise, and another one that's based on a very short story. I think it's about 40 pages, and it's called Minority Report as well. Quite different. Well, the character trying to remember Tom Cruise's character's name. Anderton. John Anderton, yes. He is like older and sort of schlubby and all that. But it's an interesting premise, the whole sort of future crimes thing of, and it's really interesting in a sense of how can you really arrest someone for something that's in their head? Like, is that fair to go? Because that's the thing. Like, you get people out, you get people who'll say, "Oh, that guy at work, I just want to kill him," but it's like they never will. And but I mean, true, they do work that out in the they say, oh, there's certain crimes where they go, yeah, we know people don't mean it. It's just because of this, but anyway, they do an interesting thing what they call a red ball crime, which is actually a term in several law enforcement divisions of like a high sort of an important case. Definitely in Baltimore, I'm fairly certain red ball. Because I remember that from Homicide, they used to refer to things as a red ball crime. Um, but yeah, that's normally one where it's like this is a crime of passion. It's happening now, or it's about to happen. So they can't be they can't pussyfoot around. They gotta protect the potential victim and arrest the dude. And it's really interesting done because I have one issue with it, and it's not about the plot. Well, there's something about the plot, but it's one of those things that when you read the story and you go, this concept is kind of cool, but nothing in the story said to me that this needs to be 2.5 hours of Steven Spielberg special effects, where it's just like cars that, on different rails and stuff like that. And I know it's meant to be the future, and future's meant to be futuristic, but I was just like, wow, this is distracting me. The other thing too is it has three endings, which is kind of, it ends here, it ends here, it ends here. Any one of them is an ending. But regardless of that, it's still a good film. I mean, Tom Cruise is a decent actor. Like, oh, he's a very good actor. Um, Regardless of what you think of his personal stuff, I don't really. When he's not on the screen, I don't really care what he's doing, as long as he's not hurting people. But yeah, no, he makes good movies. Let's put it that way. I've pretty much always enjoyed his films. Great cast though. You got Max von Sydow. He's like the head of the, the the Future Crimes Division. You've got Samantha Morton. She plays one of the three clairvoyant precogs or precognition. Um, well, yeah, that basically make the entire thing work. Let's see who else is there. Colin Farrell's in there. He plays like someone who's he's sort of checking it out just to see if it's viable. It's going to go. It's it's going from just this. I think it's set in DC, so I think it's just the district that has the pre-crime, but it's going to go if it gets through Congress or whatever, it's going to go full country, and it's kind of neat because there's the whole point of it is that a red ball comes out and basically Tom Cruise's character is named on the red ball, and he's like, well, that can't be right. And basically, the Minority Report itself is a file that is saved when the whole precog thing goes through. That shows that there is a percentage of error, and he wants to see his Minority Report because he believes it's a mistake. Um, and it's very neatly done. It's because yeah, he goes on the run. Everyone's trying to get him. He's Tom Cruise, so he runs really fast. But he also is the best of them. Like he can predict how they're going to act. He knows the technology they're going to use to hunt him. He can stay ahead of the curve. There's some interesting stuff with modern technology that everywhere you go, your eyes are recorded like snapshots, so they know where you are at all times because your eyes are unique to you. But they also use it for advertising and stuff. So when he walks in somewhere, it goes, John Allen, blah blah blah. And it's like so even if they're not chasing him that way, his name's like yelled out everywhere too. So I mean, it's a very good story. It's as I said, I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. They could have honestly the first ending, which is potentially one of the most interesting ones. It would have made a really good episode of The Twilight Zone. It would have been a good 30 minutes, sort of like we've invented pre-crime, and it's like our best cop, you're going to commit a murder, and I need to go on the run. I'm not going to commit a murder because I'm the best cop, and then and then it goes through to the first ending, and you go, oh, that's really cool. But I know probably Minority Report is most people have seen it because it was a big Hollywood film. If you haven't, check it out. It's pretty good. If you read the story too, as I said, it's based on a story called Minority Report. It's about 40 pages. It's not a huge amount of effort to get into it, but it's an interesting story, and as I said, it's a little bit of a dangerous thing because it's like, are we going into thought crimes now, where it's like you're gonna get arrested for what's in your head, even if you don't act on it, and it's like that to me, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous slippery slope of to go down. But they don't really go into that in too much detail. That's more for a discussion after the movie when you're having a drink and going, I don't like where they're going with this, but yes, Minority Report, Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg, yeah, it was a great one. One thing I did forget to talk about with Minority Report, there was a TV series. It went for 10 episodes. It was a sequel to the movie, which had none. Oh no, it didn't have none of the characters. It had good God, I can't remember the Samantha Morton's character, the precog. Um, Basically, it was about what she was mainly doing because she moved to an island, and but she still had the visions, and and yeah, and there was like a new cop that was sort of you know sort of got involved. Um, it was okay. I don't think it was particularly great, but yeah, as far as TV shows, go. It was fine. Actually, no, was it 10 episodes? Yeah, it was 10 episodes. Yeah, but had Megan Good. She's huh, well, like that sounds funny, but she was pretty good in it. Um, Trying to think who else, anyone in here that I recognize. Agatha. Agatha was the female precog, the one who she had the most power. Without the other two, well, without her, the other two were not nowhere near as useful, because she could filter the two twins, what they saw, and yeah, it was, but yeah, it was all right. It was okay. Um, I don't know where you can watch it though. It's not like, oh, it's Fox. Fox, maybe it is available on Disney Plus. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure on that. But if you enjoyed Minority Report and you want to see more adventures of stuff set in that universe, I'd say check it out. It's fine. It's not huge, but it's okay. But yeah, it's as I said, it's just 10 episodes and that's it. It didn't get picked up again. In 2003, we got the movie Paycheck with Ben Affleck and Aaron Eckhart, Uma Thurman, and directed by John Woo. So it's full of action, and it is, and it's an interesting one. It's really good, based on the story Paycheck. So we've had a few in a row now. We've had three in a row where it's like based on the actual story it's called. Um, but don't worry, that's going to end soon. um, but really interesting premise of an engineer who is really good at reverse engineering other people's properties and making it better for his company or whoever hires him. And the way that they do it, and there's another one about memory and everything like that. Um, he doesn't have to sign NDAs or anything like that, because what he ends up doing is he locks himself away for a certain amount of time. He does what he does. He gets the paycheck, and then he eliminates those parts of his brain that have that memory and deletes it, and using like lasers and stuff, and it's very dangerous. But it's an interesting concept. So his best friend is played by Paul Giamatti. He's always great in everything. Affleck's great in this. You've got Michael C. Hall from Dexter. He was, before Dexter. He was great. He plays one of the cops that's chasing him. Joe Morton from Terminator 2. He's another one of the cops chasing him. Um, because basically he gets a gig with his old friend played by Aaron Eckhart, and they've got a new way of dealing with the memory thing where they give him an injection, and that gives the start point, and then when he's finished, they give him another injection, and it deletes everything to that start point. So he'll basically he'll go, "What happened?" And he go, "You're done." Um, and it's an they don't tell you what he's building. They like early on you find out what he does and stuff like that. This one is a complete secret. The trouble is that he meets Uma Thurman, who ends up falling in love with after he gets the first injection, and he's like, and the first thing he's regretting it. He's like, "Oh damn." But anyway, he goes to get his paycheck, and they tell him that no, you signed it away. There's nothing here. And he's like, why would I sign millions and millions of dollars away? So he ends up basically trying to work out what's going on. People try to kill him. He goes running. Instead of having a big paycheck of money, he has an envelope full of stuff. And there's like a ticket somewhere. There's like a silver dollar. There's like a match. There's like a whole bunch of bits and pieces. And because the way his brain works of reverse engineering, he's like, well, this obviously means something. Because he's like going, is this $1 million pair of sunglasses? Is this, he's really angry. But he soon realizes that everything in that manila folder, not manila folder, it's an envelope, he needs to stay alive. And it's really neatly done. It's very, very cool. Because it's like, what do I need? Oh, look, I need to go to the subway. Oh, I got a subway ticket. Cool. And I'm through. Stuff like that. It's really, really cool. Um, and of course, Aaron Eckhart is, you know, basically trying to kill him. And he doesn't understand why, because he doesn't remember why what he did. But yeah, Aaron Eckhart's not leaving anything to chance. His Colin Fiore, I think it's Fiore. It could be Colin Fiore. Um, Canadian actor, really good. I've loved him since the first thing I ever saw him in, which is a Stephen King thing called Storm of the Century. He's just one of those actors where you just go, oh, that guy, I know him. He was the frost giant in Thor. You wouldn't recognize him because he's under a whole bunch of CGI. But great actor, really good. He's like the lead enforcer for Aaron Eckhart's character, and he's great. But I really do recommend it. It's a good action film. It really is, and you get a lot of thought into it, where you're going, oh yeah. So yeah, and the fun bit is because when he puts everything on, I think it's on a bed in an apartment, or not an apartment, it's a hotel room. You like look at it all, and you're sort of taking note of it, and you think, what's he going to need that for? And it's almost a fun experiment of seeing that if you can work out what he needs next just before he does, which I always do stuff like that because I like to think I'm smart, but it's a fun film. John Woo always great, and yeah, as I said, Eckhart's great. Eckhart's a great actor. Affleck's great. Giamatti's great. Emma Thurman's great. Colin Fiore's great. Joe Morton's great. Michael C. Hall's great. Everyone's great. So yeah, no, a really, really decent movie. So yeah, Paycheck from 2003. 2006, A Scanner Darkly. This one, once again, actually, yeah, based on the story of Scanner Darkly. This one's a very interesting movie. It's also the way it's made because it's completely rotoscoped, which means that it looks like it's animated, but basically they drew over everyone in it. So yeah, it was all shot live, and then they drew the animation over the top of everything, and it's really well done. It's incredibly well done. I remember seeing this at the cinema with my boss at the time and one of my coworkers, and we were just we were all fans of Philip K. Dick. So I was like, "Scan it darkly! I can't believe they made this. Let's go see it." And we went and saw it. We just walked out of that theater going, "Holy crap! How did they make that?" Like just, and it's not just like how they make it like rotoscoping. Like rotoscoping has been around forever, but it's an interesting plot. It's a very interesting plot because basically America's lost the war on drugs. And I know some people go, well, duh, but no, in this and there's a new drug out there that's really, it causes hallucinations, and it's really addictive, and like 20% of the country is addicted to it, and it's really bad. And basically you've got no one knows where it's being made or how it's being produced. And there's elements in this too that are actually straight out of Philip K. Dick's life, which is very interesting. And I do recommend reading up on him, and you'll find there's some really interesting parallels to what happens in some of this movie and what happened to him in real life. But there's got Keanu Reeves, Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Rory Cochrane from Empire Records, and Winona Ryder. It's really interesting. Um, Once again, how chemical dependency affects you, and what people are willing to do for the greater good as well. And it's honestly, it's very, very good film. It's I really do recommend this one. I'm just seeing if there's anyone else in this movie that I can recommend. And I go, this guy. Not off the top of my head, no. But that can't be the same. Please tell me that's not. Oh my god, it is. Alex Jones is in this. Alex Jones as Street Prophet with Bullhorn. Wow. I just thought, oh, it's got to be a common name. But no, it is the Alex Jones. Wow. I need to rewatch this just to see that. Oh my god. It has been a while since I've seen this movie, but I really do recommend it. I don't really want to go any further into the plot with this one because it's another one. I don't think a lot of people saw it when it came out because it was very subtle with being, as I said, being rotoscoped. A lot of people thought it was probably a cartoon and just went, eh. Um, despite the cast, I mean, it's a stellar cast and Alex Jones. I'm just kidding. I'm being mean. But yeah, I do recommend checking it out because it's a very bittersweet story. I will warn you on that one. But but yeah, it is one of those things where it's like you could imagine this happening. You really could. And I mean, there's talking about narcotics problems. I mean, I don't want to get on the soapbox here, but things like the addictions with opiates and stuff like that in the States and that, and not just the States, it's the world in general. There's some horrible stuff going on, and yeah, it's just that how the police are trying to not just keep the public safe, but try and find out where it's coming from in this movie, and it's really really fascinating. Like as I said, bittersweet story, but it is really worth checking out. So yeah, A Scanner Darkly, really interesting title. Um, yeah, it did terrible at the box office. It had an $8.7 million budget, which is not huge, but it only made 7.7 back, which is a shame because I think it's a freaking great movie. But yeah, uh, I do, as I said, I don't want to go into any more detail than that. This is a very short one talking about Scanner Darkly, but it is really worth checking out. It's a very, very interesting film, not just for the subject matter, but how it's made. And I think, you'd probably definitely enjoy it. So, yeah. So 2007, we got the movie Next with Nicolas Cage and Jessica Biel and Julianne Moore. This one is less. This is probably the one that's not really about identity so much. However, there's some interesting stuff with this guy's capabilities. Basically, Nicolas Cage plays Chris Johnson, I believe it's that. And he has the ability to see like very. I think it's like a few minutes ahead into the future, and it's sort of one of those things that he it's kind of helpful, but it's also not necessarily helpful. But the one time that it was more than 2 minutes, he had a vision of this woman who was played by Jessica Biel, and all he knew was the time that he meets her, and it was at 8:09 in the morning. Oh no, it wasn't. No, he doesn't know if it's morning or night. So basically, he goes every day to this diner at twice a day at 8:09 to see if she shows up. So while he's trying to do that, um, he sort of makes money. He's like a sort of a magician, but he also makes money by basically going to the local casinos and making bets because he can work out where the roulette's going to land. But he doesn't go crazy. He just sort of makes enough that won't annoy the highs up and go, this guy's doing something. But basically his capability comes on the radar of it's the FBI. Oh no, it's the NSA. It's the NSA, and they want to utilize his power to stop a terrorist attack. It's going to be like a nuclear bomb going off, sort of thing. And yeah, and he does not want to have anything to do with it because he wants to find this woman and sort of he's sort of obsessed with her, but he's also kind of curious of why she expanded his capability of his precognition. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Now there's some interesting uses of visual sort of effects in this, and there's one really nice sequence where they have Nicolas Cage basically search a warehouse using his power. And the way they visually do it is like he'll walk, and then you'll see him go in three different directions, and then come back, and it's like, okay, it's not that way, it's not way, it's that way, and then move forward. And they do it a few times, and it's really cool. It's very nicely done. Nick Cage is great. He's not like crazy bees Nicolas Cage. He's not Leaving Las Vegas Nicolas Cage. He's sort of somewhere in the middle. I'd say closer to Leaving Las Vegas than bees, but he does a pretty good job. It's based on the story The Golden Man, which I don't know. Is The Golden Man a better title than Next? You be the judge of that. Next is a bit of a dull title. It, it was another one that didn't do too well. It was like, just looking at the budget, it was $78.1 million, and it made $76.1 million back. So it lost $10 million, and we're not counting the money for advertising and stuff like that. I did see this at the cinema, though. I enjoyed it enough. It's not high on my list of Philip K. Dick stories, but it has been a while, and I probably will give it another look because as I said, it has been a while. So Next from 2007, starring Nicolas Cage, Julianne Moore, and Jessica Biel, about a guy who can see 2 minutes into the future. Alrighty, this one's a weird one. Because of all of the Philip K. Dick stories that I've been talking about today, this one just does not feel like Philip K. Dick, really. To an extent, there are certain elements of it where you go, well, that's totally him. The Adjustment Bureau, starring Matt Damon and Emily Blunt, and a bunch of other people. Yeah, this one is a really different story. So basically, you've got Matt Damon, who is, I believe, a congressman who's going to be running for Senate. He loses the election, but and anyway he meets Jessica Blunt, and sort of flirts with her a bit, and he's sort of, like, oh, I wouldn't mind seeing her again. He does a speech that sort of impresses everybody, where they go, well, when it comes up for election again, maybe he'll win this time around. Um, anyway, there's the bit where he's meant to basically this group, which is the Adjustment Bureau, sort of operate outside the I don't know what you'd call it, the conscious of reality, really. And they're just guys, in suits and hats. But the whole point of them is that they shepherd people's lives into the way they're meant to live. So basically, Matt Damon is meant to become this senator, uh, but he's not meant to be involved with Emily Blunt at all, because that is not the grand scheme of things. The plan, and but yeah, he's meant, basically one of the guys that follow him around is meant to spill coffee on his shirt, so he has to go home. But Matt Damon, I can't remember, Matt Damon falls asleep, or the guy falls asleep, but Matt Damon's not there, and the guy can't do it, and so he runs into Emily Blunt again, and they sort of catch up. Um, and after that, basically, they started getting chased by these guys in hats, and it's a fascinating concept on the point of, is it's like going back to Terminator, really. It's like, is your fate set? Like, can are you a in your life, are you just along for the ride? It doesn't matter what you do, or what choice you make. You're going to end up where you're going to end up because it's been predetermined. And Matt Damon he's basically like, I don't want to live like that. I want to be able to make choices and go, if I want to go left down here, I'm going to go left, and I don't need some guy in a hat to go, no, you're not going left, you're going to go right, because that's how it's been predetermined. So yeah, he and Emily Blunt have basically been chased around the city by these guys. And so there's sort of elements of like, is this some sort of godlike entity that's in charge, or is it or is it something else at play? We've got Terrence Stamp as, I believe he's the head of the Adjustment Bureau. There's, what else is in this movie? Pedro Pascal, he's in there. The Mandalorian. Got John Slattery, who played Howard Stark. He's one of the dudes. Michael Kelly, who's great. He's in everything from um, Jack Ryan to just everything. He's a great actor. Anthony Mackie, the Falcon, and now Captain America. He's one of the guys running around. So yeah, it's an interesting premise as the fact that it's a little bit more involved than just a story about identity and what makes you you, as most of his stories are. Um, the premise of, like, is there something shepherding you through your life, and can you, do you have freedom of choice? That's more of the question of this film. I think it was, they modified the story. I think it was Adjustment Team, it was originally called. So not a huge change from team to bureau. Bureau makes it sound a little bit more like a actual law enforcement division rather than a group of potential gods. I don't know, but it's an interesting story. It's more of a romance because of the aspect between the dynamic between Matt Damon and Emily Blunt, which is fine. That's good. It's it's different. As I said, it's a different film. I'm not going to go into more detail on that because I do recommend people check this one out for themselves as well. It did really well. So yeah, it's one of the few ones. Like, there's unfortunately, like, this group of movies, most of them didn't do very well. But Minority Report was huge. Adjustment Bureau was huge. And the rest were like, we lost money. Which is a shame because but they're still good films, so I do recommend it. But I'm not going to go into any more detail on Adjustment Bureau. Check it out. It's as I said, Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Anthony Mackie, John Slattery, Michael Kelly, Terrence Stamp, Neil before Zod. Fascinating concept, it really is. But yeah, a little bit, off the I won't say off the deep end, but a little bit off the reservation for standard Philip K. Dick stories. So yeah. All right, there's this one I'm completely missed. I haven't seen it. I don't know anything about it. It's called Radio Free Albemuth, which is based on the story Radio Free Albemuth. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, so please, bear with me. But yeah, so it's a dystopian story. It came out in 2010. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. I missed this one, so I only found out about it last night when I was sort of planning this stuff. But it does have Alanis Morissette in it, if that's something that interests you. And John Tenney, he's always good. But Scott Wilson, who was in Walking Dead and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, so it's I have no idea what it's like. I am currently trying to source a copy of it because I do want to check it out, as I do like the as I said, the works of Philip K. Dick. Um, but um, but yeah, so basically about a guy who experiences strange visions and dreams, and yeah, sort of dealing with that sort of stuff. I don't want to go into any more detail because I don't know anything about it. So, but that was another one that sort of snuck out. And there is another one which I believe it wasn't. I think it came out in France. I think it's a French movie, which is Confessions of a Crap Artist. Yeah. So there is a oh yeah. Apparently, in 1992 it was released, and there's Bajo It's the English language release of the Confessions of a Crap Artist, which is actually based on a story, Confessions of a Crap Artist. I haven't seen that one either, so I don't know anything about it. So those are the ones that sort of slip through the cracks of the ones based on films. And so, yes, unfortunately, I can't tell you much about those. But yes, lucky last on this list is an important one. Um, Man in the High Castle, the TV series. Basically, Ridley Scott produced it. It was meant to be a mini series, and it ended up getting picked up by Amazon Prime eventually, and it went for 4 seasons. So I think there's 40 episodes, um, and it is excellent. It's it's funny, like I was actually on a live stream last night, and they were talking about actual science fiction novels and how authors like Heinlein and that, and they were the guys who really did push forward things like alternate realities and that. And a lot of people just think, oh yeah, this is all thanks to Marvel and things like that. It's like, no, it's not. It's been around for decades and decades. Um, but and the funny thing is, like when you talk about this story, there'll be people go, well, I've seen that before. That was like the sequel to the Philadelphia experiments. Like, yeah, it's not like a concept that hasn't been done before, but this is when it was done first. As far as I know, but I'm fairly certain. Well, this story was, and but the basic premise is this is what would have this is what the world would look like if the Axis won instead of the Allies, and the United States was conquered, and half of I think the West Coast through till about Colorado-ish, sort of, and going across, is controlled by the Japanese, and the East Coast to about the same section is controlled by the Germans, and this bit in the middle is kind of like a free zone sort of thing. But but it is a fascinating story. It's really beautifully done, and it's really good because there's lots of characters in there that are both working for the Germans and working for the Japanese, but they're not necessarily bad people. It's just they're sort of stuck in this situation where it's like, yes, we've conquered this country, and everyone looks at us like they just want to just spit on us and shoot us. But I'm not trying to make their lives difficult. There's some guys like that. Um, it's a very good series. I recommend you check it out. It is a lot more of um, a lot more to watch than just like a 2 hour film. Like as I said, it's 40 episodes. I think it's 10 per season. Um, but it is worth it. It really is. And you got like this resistance group that's sort of trying to get a foothold back and trying to seeing how that what they can do to actually not just annoy the Germans, but to get them out and reclaim the country. And then there's this information that there's this man in the High Castle, where he has film footage which is from our universe, where the Axis lost and the Allies won, and it's sort of like, well, if this stuff exists, how can we use this stuff to sort of prove to them that they shouldn't be here? So yeah, it's a fascinating story, and it's really well done. And as I said, as far as I know, it's the first time that they dealt with the what if World War II went the other way. And yeah, a great book too. It's one of the few, like all these ones are based on short stories. That one's actually a novel, Man in the High Castle. And yeah, so as I said, Amazon did it. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. I do recommend it. I mean, like, I recommend it if you're a fan of Philip K. Dick. I recommend it if you're a fan of history. Um, it's one of those ones where they go into massive amounts of detail into what happened, and then sort of tweak it and go, well, this could have happened if if this battle went the other way and things like that. So they really do go into a lot more. It's a lot more interesting from the standpoint of history as well. So it's a great what if scenario. Well, it's not a great what if scenario because no one wants them to win, but the way it's done is a great. So I misspoke. So don't go. Tony likes. No, I do not. But it's a very good story. Let's put it that way. So yes, Man in the High Castle, 4 seasons on Amazon Prime. Very, very good. But and that unfortunately brings us to the end of cinema and television based on the works of Philip K. Dick, which is a shame. There's probably plenty more out there that they could do, and I think there's stuff that's still in the works. Um, there was a anthology series that went for 10 episodes called Electric Dreams. It was called Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. So if you just go Electric Dreams, you'll find the romantic comedy with Virginia Madsen about the sentient house computer, um, which is still a good movie. So don't just go. I'm not going to watch that movie. It's actually really fun. Um, but um, but yeah, and it's sort of as an anthology series. I think that's also on Amazon Prime. Um, but yeah, Ronald D. Moore, who did Deep Space Nine and Battlestar Galactica, he was sort of one of the inputs and working on that. Bryan Cranston's in an episode. I think Philip K. Dick's daughter had some stuff to do with it. So if you like things like the Twilight Zone and anthology stuff too, I'd recommend that as just stuff that Philip K. Dick would have probably liked back in the day. So yeah. So hopefully that's some there's some movies on there that you haven't heard of or haven't seen, and you're now like, oh, okay, I'll give them a look. I do, as I said, I do recommend all of these films if even if you're even just like peripherally a fan of because of Blade Runner or Total Recall, and you're going, oh, I kind of like those films. I do recommend, like as I said, like Screamers and Paycheck and Imposter and as I'm fairly certain everyone saw Minority Report, but if you haven't, check it out. Adjustment Bureau is another one that I do recommend. Even Next, I mean they're all different and interesting. So yeah, hopefully you find or have been inspired to maybe check some of this stuff out, and maybe even inspired to maybe check out some of the writings that they're based on. Oh yeah, definitely Scanner Darkly as well. Um, as I said, the best thing about his books, they're short stories. So for the most part, and you can buy a anthology of those, and it's just like cool. I've got several of these ones that are based on movies. Great, I can check them out and compare them myself. And as I said, the around 40 pages, 30 pages. It's not like a massive commitment to reading like We Can Remember For Your Whole Self. Android's Dream Electric Sheep is a larger story. I think it is actually a novel or it could be a novella. Minority Report's about 40 pages. So yeah, they're only then it's like not. I wouldn't even say it's even an afternoon. It's like a few hours, if that. I mean, depending on how slow you read, but yeah, they're pretty quick to sort of just go, and as I said, they're all different. They have similar themes, as I said, about identity and personality and what makes you you. But yeah, they're decent stories, and as I said, Philip K. Dick was a prolific writer. He's an important writer when it comes to if you're a fan of science fiction. Philip K. Dick, Robert Heinlein, Frank Herbert, Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke. They're all big guns when it comes to the genre of science fiction, and yeah, they're all important for their corner of the genre that they sort of worked in. So yeah, with that, I'm going to let you go, and hopefully you've enjoyed, as I said, this video. And as I say, keep on reading, keep on watching, keep on listening, keep on playing. I've added that one now since I started doing game stuff again. And keep yourself entertained because there's lots of great stuff out there for you to discover or rediscover. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
More updates. Damn the man! Save the Empire!